Hey everybody, Johnny Cage here, welcoming you back to another game review. This time we're taking a look at Hades, developed and published by Supergiant Games, released September 17th, 2020 on multiple platforms, including the Nintendo Switch, which is the version I will be playing. In Hades, you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, whose whereabouts have just become known to the other Greek gods, and with their help, Zagreus will attempt to escape from the underworld and reach Mount Olympus. In this roguelike, you will begin each escape attempt in the House of Hades, the central hub for all things related to the story, as well as character building. Right off the bat, I really appreciate the extra mile Supergiant has gone here with fleshing out the world and its inhabitants, featuring many gods and demigods of mythology, whom you can converse with, helping the player to learn more about the robust cast through codex entries on each individual. It would be real easy for the approach to this game to be one of doom and despair when it comes to the dialogue, being set in the underworld and all, but it was refreshing to have interactions with most of the characters be around empathizing with Zagreus' desire to escape from the only world he has ever known, even if his father will do everything in his power to keep him in his place. Once you have completed your socializing, you can begin to alter the game in various ways if you have the resources available, such as checking in with the house contractor to have renovations made that will change the underworld chambers you traverse, usually providing you with more rewards than you would usually garner for completing a room. There's also a slew of other purely aesthetic options available if you would like. Or you can go ahead and visit the Underworld Lounge, where you can find a number of shades hanging out on their break, and you can speak with the broker while you're here to trade out less valuable resources for those that you might need at the time. In Zagreus' private chambers, you can reflect on your character using the Mirror of Night, which you will spend a fair amount of time at considering the multiple attributes that can be improved, with more being available to unlock as you progress, eventually leading to you being able to swap talents if one or more aren't particularly to your liking, and if a certain build isn't going your way as you had planned, you can always reset them for a small cost. With your stats all set, it's time to select the weapon that will lead you to victory, and there are 6 in total. The Stygius Blade, which acts like a normal sword, complete with dash thrust and area-damaging ground slam. Vratha, a spear that combines the best of close and ranged combat with the ability to throw it and summon it back to you at will, as well as an area-clearing spin attack for when enemies get a little too close. The Aegis Shield, which appears to embody the spirit of Captain America with its throw that bounces off of multiple enemies, as well as a Bull Rush, which you can activate by holding down the attack button, shielding you from attacks, and then releasing it to charge forward. The Coronach Bow, which is your standard ranged weapon, timing out your shot perfectly to deliver a power shot for extra damage, and also allowing a volley of arrows to take out multiple enemies or deal a great deal of damage to a single foe at very close range. My personal favorite, the Malifon Gloves, which allow for multiple strikes by holding down the attack button, as well as a devastating uppercut, which combos quite nicely into the initial barrage of punches. Lastly, we have the very out-of-place Exogryph Railgun, which looks like it would be more fitting in a Doom game, but certainly lends itself to the not-so-serious tone of Hades. With a clip of rounds that will reload when empty if you lay off the attack, or can be manually reloaded, this gun also sports a grenade launcher, which you can manually move the reticle of by holding down the X button. And once you've zoned in on your preferred weapon or two, you can go ahead and start upgrading specific aspects of it using the hard-to-find Titan's Blood. The last piece of equipment you will need before you begin your quest is a keepsake. With 22 to discover in all, you can acquire these by gifting those you meet on your travels with Nectar. Each of these will provide you with a passive ability, and finding the perfect one that lends itself to your playstyle and weapon you plan on using for the next run will keep you wanting to discover these as quickly as possible. After the prep is complete, it's time to begin the game proper by taking the first steps into Tartarus, the first of 4 levels. From here, you'll take on enemies one room after another, often being able to choose your own path with symbols on the doors indicating the reward for completing what lies ahead. After a few tries at reaching the mountaintop, you'll develop a solid grasp on what each image indicates, with most of them being various resources to be used as different currencies upon your inevitable return to the halls of Hades. Besides these resources, you will occasionally run into a demigod who will give you the option of a unique gift to help you along your way. There's also Charon the ferryman doing his best impression of the merchant in Resident Evil 4 with his item shop, as well as upgrades to your weapons and boons, the later of which you will be instilled with when you come across a god symbol. Remember how I mentioned how enjoyable it is to discover the perfect synergy of keepsake and weapon? Well, it's even more fun to discover which god's boons work best for your run. For instance, Athena will provide you with the more defensive-focused boons, which mesh well with close-range combat, while Poseidon's offerings knock enemies back, making him a good match with ranged weapons. And it's this aspect of the game that keeps me coming back to it, and a large part of the reason I can see myself jumping back into this game for a long time to come. My only request would be that you could guarantee the appearance of a particular god so you could really customize your build, but at least with each god's keepsake it does increase your chance of finding a better rarity boon for that particular god when you do happen to come across them. Like all good roguelikes, you will continue to battle your way through these 4 floors, each of which have their own boss encounter, and inevitably dying a number of times before you complete your adventure, but coming back stronger each time and almost always with a new piece of information that will come in handy. Even 30 hours in from the time I'm writing this review, I'm discovering new content, which is something I can't say I've seen in games of this genre for years. The controls feel very tight in this game, just as they are in Supergiant's other offerings like Bastion and Transistor, with each hit feeling like a player error and not something cheap. Even when accidentally landing on a trap or standing on lava, you have a good amount of time to react to your situation rather than being punished immediately. Regardless of what weapon you choose for your adventure, you can always rely on the action buttons being the same with some minor exceptions. Generally, Y will always attack, with X being the weapon's special move, B will dash you around, and A performs a cast, which is a red hedron looking thing that will become lodged in an enemy when it makes contact. You can upgrade this to cause more damage to your adversaries when it becomes stuck in them. When you first boot this game up, the first thing you are bound to notice is the vibrant color palette that really makes the architecture of the underworld and character animations pop out. Not to mention its remarkably stable 60 frames per second, which is such a pleasure to see on the Switch, and I only ever noticed taking a dip when the screen was loaded with sprites, which doesn't happen too frequently, but on top of the frame drop, it can be somewhat easy to lose track of your character in the madness when it does. The audio was a bit of a mixed bag for me personally, and definitely my biggest issue. On one hand, it was great when some of the hardcore metal music would kick in during a boss fight, but I also found it a bit lacking just when exploring the normal levels, with nothing really sticking with me once I had finished playing. Hades sells for $25 American with a file size of 5.5 gigabytes, playing one player with no online support. This game, in my opinion, is a must-buy for anyone that loves the roguelike genre as much as I do. I feel like years ago when games like Binding of Isaac and Rogue Legacy came out, there were a number of imitators that followed trying to capture the same addicting gameplay but failed in doing so. Fast forward to 2020, and Hades has reignited the passion I had for the genre long ago, with so many combinations of weapons, keepsakes, and boons that keep you coming back for just one more run. Great controls and visuals that we have come to expect from Supergiant, and a refreshing story with engaging characters in a genre that is mostly known for its silent protagonists. And with all that being said, the issues I had noted earlier for the game are quite minor, and I'm going to go ahead and give Hades a hellish 9.5 out of 10. I know I'm going to keep on playing this game regularly for months to come, and it's definitely in my running for Game of the Year and absolutely worth the asking price. Thank you everyone for watching, and if you would like to stay posted on new game reviews as I upload them, please click the subscribe button, as well as checking out the link in the description below for my Twitch channel where I stream most evenings. I'll talk to you all later on.